So I just
that
give her
would
a
like
key
to
in
offer
case something was to happen to me,
words of
which was
prayer.
good, because that's the time that I got bad. I did
We'll have
need.
prayer followed by the pledge.
Let's pray. Lord, we just love you and thank you, Lord. We thank you for this season, Lord. We just thank you for this time of the year. But Lord, most importantly, we just thank you for your grace and your mercy, Lord. We pray that you be with us on this board, Lord, be with them as they make decisions for the school system of our district. Just guide them and lead them down the right path, Lord. We just love you and thank you. In your mighty name today we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, flag, salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This falls a church.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, December the 2nd, 2019 school board meeting. And items for the amendment to the agenda, we're going to pull item 5.4, the reading update. 5.4 we'll pull until a later date. Public comment? Anyone? Okay. All right, consent agenda items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I move to approve these consent agenda items.
Second.
Properly moved by Ms. Gibson, seconded by Ms. Williamson. Would there be a need for debate or discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Items for individual consideration. 5.1, student field trips out of county. Ms. Joseph.
Mr. Chair, we have several field trips being presented to you. We have one to Greenville Elementary School. They're going to see a movie, Frozen 2, with all the lesson plans attached. That's being funded through Title IV. We've got, we've got Pineatta's second graders are going to Legoland, and that's being funded by students, and the lesson plans are attached. We've got the Central School, our group of 7th and 8th graders going to DC, and this is during spring break. It's a bit costly, but they're doing several fundraisers. We approved a fundraiser at last meeting pertaining to this, but they are going to be, and anytime you go to Washington, you know that's a very educational trip, and that's being funded by private donations and by the individual student themselves. And we've got a crew from Lee Elementary School. They're going to the Bat Conservatory in Gainesville, and that's being funded by the kids themselves and a grant, that McPhee grant, that's being funded by them. Oh, we have one other trip that I added late, and the reason I added this late is because the band is going to Tallahassee to the playoffs, and they didn't win until Friday night, and so I couldn't give it to you before time, and so they're asking for permission to go to Tallahassee to the football game on next Saturday night. Those are the trips we have.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the student field trips?
Make a motion to approve the students' field trips.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second on the floor. Would there be a need for discussion? All in favor? Motion carried 5-0. Item 5.2, fundraisers.
Okay,
Ms. Joseph.
for fundraisers, for information for you, the kindergarten first grade class out of Pineapple Elementary are having a school garage and donation sale on December 9th through 13th, and these funds will be used to pay for their grade level field trip at the end of the school year.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the fundraisers?
I'll make the motion to approve the Pinetta fundraiser.
Second.
All right, properly moved by Ms. Williamson, seconded by Ms. Gibson. Would there be a need for debate or discussion? All in favor? Raise your hands. 5-0, motion carried. Item 5.3, distance learning grant presentation. Ms. Roderick? Good
I
evening.
actually have a handout.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back in the spring, the opportunity came up to apply for a Rural Utility Services Distance Learning Grant. And what it is, it's a 3-year grant that is specifically for rural nonprofit organizations to help bring either telemedicine, distance learning, there's a bunch of things. For us, it would be distance learning. And it was a nationwide, opened up because it was a federal grant, and it was competitive. Grants range between $50,000 to $500,000 depending on the need. It's all based on what is it that you have to order to get it up and running. So we put that in because we looked into the distance learning, and it says research out of Columbia University that I used in the grant showed that Florida dual enrollment students have a 75% completion rate in college, whereas the national average was only approximately 64%. So with that being said, I know that our dual enrollment rates are rather low because our students have to have transportation to get to the college. This will allow them to be at the school and take the class.
Good.
So we will just have to team up with NFCC or any other colleges that have the same equipment, which the majority do, because I called around before we looked into what to get, and made sure that we could communicate with multiple universities. It's a 3-year grant. It'll pay for all of our schools. This includes our elementary schools, central, and even our charter schools. The elementary schools will be able to use it. There's various museums. MoMA in New York City is one of them. Tampa's Holocaust Museum is working on getting something similar where they can take them on a tour of the museum. They have an actual person that kind of walks through with their equipment, talks about each piece or whatever it is they're looking at, so they can go to see different sites that you wouldn't normally be able to. We can't pack up and go to New York to MoMA, but we can go into a classroom that's equipped and we can sit down and look at it. So it's for 3 years. There's not a lot of monitoring that goes to it. They just ask that we show that we purchased what we said we were going to purchase. And I believe on board docs, it has our list of everything we said we'd purchase for you to review the budget. After those 3 years, it's kind of a one and done, it's over. Now, if we needed more equipment, like we have enough students that we need to do 2 classrooms instead of 1, we can apply again. So we can apply, but we have to wait till our 3 years is up. So we're starting with 1 classroom to be set up this way. I think the elementary schools are looking at making their media center their point because it doesn't move. You can't take it in and out. So it's kind of something that's just there, and it's one set. But they'll have it for 3 years. It's approximately $173,000 or $174,000 that we were given. And we only had, in Florida, and everybody who applied, we had a consortium that got it. It was us and 1 other school district.
Wow.
So we did good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for the
You're welcome.
information.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Ms. Roderick.
You're welcome.
And thank you for all your hard work. That's great.
Board members, that was a presentation on the grant. You had approved it during the consent agenda, but that's a new grant that we haven't received before, and I wanted you to have some information about it, just other than just reading about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, item 5.5, policy changes. The public hearing for the policy changes? The policy has been advertised. At this time, we'll open it for the public. If there would be any need for input, discussion.
I don't have any, discussion, but if Mrs. Stomach could just review it for us, just for our information.
There are 36 policies that are promoted by Neola. And all 36 of those policies have been advertised and gone through by the staff. There is one policy that's not sponsored by Neola. However, it's required by the Department of Education to develop one, and that's the medical marijuana use policy. And when we went over that policy to develop it, we've got several from throughout the state that was suggested and recommended by the state, and we chose to use Osceola's and make it fit the needs of our district. So we have 36 policies that are supported and backed by Neola, and the one policy that is not backed by Neola because they don't support the medical marijuana yet. So we have those 36 that the board needs to approve, plus the medical marijuana.
Okay, will there be any additional input? All right, if not, we'll close this portion of the public.
Mr. Chair, if I could make one comment. On the medical marijuana policy, the one we copied, like I said, I guess it was Osceola, they had their policy named, and if you look at the document that's in your board docs, it's got a place for a name, Roman numeral 1. I think I think staff had recommended that we not name ours. They had a student who had passed away and needed medical marijuana, and so it was the blankety blank policy and name for that student. We're not in that same position, so I don't think there's any reason to name our policy. So if you do choose to approve it, my recommendation would be to approve it, but deleting Roman numeral 1 on the medical marijuana. All that says is name.
Tommy, there was an issue recently in Marion County where they did not pass the policy to use medical marijuana because they said that the federal government does not recognize the use of medical marijuana, and they didn't want to lose jeopardy of losing their federal monies.
I've heard that. Now, in this policy, and give me a minute because I'll have to find it. If it has a savings clause, let's see. Okay, if you go to the very end of it, Roman numeral 5A, after posting a notice at each district school and on the district website for a period of 5 school days, the superintendent is authorized to suspend this policy for a period of up to 120 days upon notification that the federal government is investigating whether or has determined that this policy violates federal law, jeopardizes receipts of federal funds. Superintendent may also recommend repeal of this policy. So the point of that is if we get any idea that the federal government doesn't like this, the superintendent can go ahead and suspend the policy. That'll give us time to bring it back to the board. The board would then notice a policy repealing this policy and take care of it, and that's the point of that. Now, the next question, if I were you to ask to me, would be, Tommy, does this 100% guarantee that we won't ever have any trouble? And my answer is no, it doesn't 100% guarantee that. I think there's risk in whatever you do. There's risk if you don't enact it because there's a state statute that says you shall enact it. There's risk if you do enact it because you got the federal government out there that, as they're saying, does not recognize medical marijuana and still has marijuana listed as a controlled substance. So my recommendation is that this is your best, that this is your, in my opinion, I think it's your least risky alternative, but it certainly has risk. But you got to do, you're kind of caught in a situation, and all school districts are caught in a situation of you've got the states telling you to do something and you're worried that the feds aren't going to like it, and our district gets money from both. So what do? You know, and so I think that's the best thing you can do is have a clause that we can suspend it very quickly and come back and repeal it if that becomes an issue.
And the state has given us a deadline to submit in our board approved policy. And this is a sample policy that the state shared with us.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to point out, I went ahead after our last meeting when we discussed this, I went ahead and removed the name. So to clarify, Mr. Reeves, he referenced paragraph 5, which is the one that's on the board, on board docs. It would now read paragraph 4A.
Right. The last paragraph, anyway.
Any other questions, comments, board members? Not? Do we have a motion to adopt policy changes?
I move to adopt the policy changes.
Second.
All right, properly moved and second. Would there be a need for discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried, 5-0. All right, item 5.6, audit report for 2018 and 2019. Ms. Joseph.
Okay, pass this down. I left it in my office. Excuse me, what we have is our audit report, is our operational audit report for the 18-19 school year. And all of y'all have a packet like this in your board. What I've given you is that they've given us a timeline to respond to this. It says pursuant to section 11.4, 2K, Florida statutes, you are required to provide the requested information within 40 days of this request. Okay, we had several findings this year, and if you look on the first page, we have 11 findings. Okay, the first, and I'm going to read them out. Sorry for doing all of this. Deals with the facility safety inspections at the district facilities during the 18-19 school year. Okay. In addition, the district records did not evidence that one of the district's 2 charter schools obtained the required facility safety inspections during the 18-19 fiscal school year. Also, the District 5 portable classrooms were not inspected. That's finding number 1, and we have dealt with that accordingly. And our safety inspector, he has followed up, and he has scheduled inspections himself, and so we've got that covered. The findings number 2, district control of emergency drills and related school safety procedures need improvement. Last year was the first year after the Parkland shooting, and so all this big hoopla about safety, so we're really high on safety. We were consistently doing fire drills, but you have to do a fire drill as well as a safety drill, and so that bicycle was being built as the laws were implemented. But we've got that under pack now, and so we're doing it and we're recording it appropriately. Number 3, the district records did not demonstrate that the district conductor requires searches of the name of prospective volunteers against the applicable registration information regarding sexual predators and sexual offenders. When we do background screenings and background checks, we were only searching the FLDOE database. Now we have to research the sexual offender database, and we're doing that now.
Let me ask you a question if
Yes,
I could.
ma'am.
Is that going to be started now, or are you going to go back to those who are already volunteering?
It started
Check them out.
when the auditor was here and informed us about it, and so
Okay.
it started about 3 months ago. but we do not have to do retro, because when we do background screens and background checks on them, we've used those people. But for future, once you learn it, you change your habits then. Okay, number 4 talks about the best and brightest for the teachers. When we did that last year, and I think we informed you about this, we had a misunderstanding about the definition of teachers. That's defined differently in different places. We have recouped the funds in money or in days, so that's been taken care of. And then the next one is about the best and brightest for principals. Again, some people were awarded money and they should not. That funds have been recouped even from the charter schools, or we have sent appropriate bills. Okay, finding number 6. The board did not adopt policies and procedures establishing a documented process to identify instructional personnel entitled to differentiated pay using factors described in the state law. A similar finding was noted in the 1718 report. We are working with the union on rectifying this finding. Okay, that's something that I can't personally do. Union, the instructions are governed by the union, so we have to work through them. Number 7, the board did not comply with the provisions of the state law requiring the adoption of performance salary schedule that provide annual salary adjustment for school administrators based upon student performance and educational leadership. A similar finding was noted in our report of the prior year, and that's something that I have control over, and that's something that a correction for this will be presented later on today, because it is a finding. Okay, number 8, district control over contractual services with school resource officers need enhancement. Basically, they said we had a contract with the sheriff department for school resource officer, and we were not verifying that we were receiving the services. We are handling that now because we receive monthly timesheets from the sheriff department for all of our school resource officers, and that's to compare it to our payments to them. Okay, the next one, number 9, it's 11 of them, people. Some unnecessary information technology users have access privilege existed that increase the risk that unauthorized disclosure of sensitive personal information of students may occur. Last year was our first year with Skyward, and we were learning, and we weren't as locked down, but as we learn the system, we're locking down more and more. And in an audit report, if you read through it, you'll see where we're locking down the system more and more. But while we were learning the system, a lot of people had access to certain areas that they didn't need. And when we discover they do not need access to certain areas, we lock it down more and more. And Isaac has been working quite well with that. Okay, number 10, the district did not have an the district did not have an IT discovery recovery plan. We save our information in the clouds. And Isaac is working on rectifying that. And the last one is the district security controls related to logging in and monitoring of IT system activity needed improvement. And I think Isaac has that down pretty good. We've got to monitor who's using the system and how long they're using the system, and he's got some kind of controls over that. But with this new security thing, everything is super sensitive to security, and so that's why we were cited on these, but we are addressing all of these. And that's just the gist of this report. We did a response, which were your last 2 pages. Those are responses Now we've got to respond with evidence within 45 days. Mr. Chair, that's your audit report.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Joseph concerning the audit report?
As I went over this, the thought came through my mind that it's so important for everyone to know exactly the rules, let's put it that way. Because if we don't follow the rules, we get into trouble. And I think that was kind of something that was on my mind throughout this whole thing. In other words, we have to be very careful with the rules that they set forth.
And Mr. Chairman, we don't have to vote on that. That's for information for the board to understand. And of course, if you have any directions or anything you want to give to the superintendent, you can, but it's not something you need to approve.
Ms. Joseph, any workshops that you feel we may need concerning, I know it's within the union, but concerning finding number 6, with compensation and the salary schedules, you decide.
Okay, they're just starting negotiations. How far are you with negotiation with the union?
We haven't gotten to
Okay,
this point.
when we get to that point, we'll probably have a workshop.
The main thing right now is the revisions and changes to best advice.
But Mr. Alford, I will keep that in mind.
Because that was one of the recommendations from the board to establish a documented process for determining and applying differentiated pay, considering the factors prescribed in the state law.
All right, any other questions or issues? All right. Item 5.7, staffing table. Mr. Stallings.
There are no changes.
All right, item 5.8, personnel changes.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet and on board docs, the personnel changes, we have a couple, let me get to the page. We have 2 new hires, William Bonds replacing a teacher, science teacher at the Central School. Stephanie Christian will be the new kindergarten teacher that we added to be paid out of Title I. We got one employee requesting a leave of absence. It's Valerie Bass. It's backdated to November 5th through January 6th of 20. And then Ms. Dixon's resignation effective December 6th. And we also have a handful of volunteers that should be in your package as well.
Okay. After hearing from Mr. Stallnaker, do we have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
I move that we approve the personnel changes.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Would there be a need for discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried, 5-0. Item 5.9, administrative salary schedule. Ms. Joseph.
Okay, on the administrative salary schedule, what I'm going to share with you now, I'm going to share with you this Florida statute which governed my work on this statute and the table that I presented to you last time.
The same thing.
It's the same thing. I didn't pass them down. Okay, this is Florida statute 1012.22, and if you look on the back, number 5A, Roman number 2, it says beginning July 1, 2014, instructional personnel or school administrators new to the district returning to the district after breaking service without an authorized leave of absence or appointment. That's not, okay. Shall be placed on a performance pay schedule. Okay, salary adjustment shall be for highly effective or effective performance shall be established as follows. The annual salary adjustment under the performance pay schedule for an employee rated highly effective must be greater than the highest annual salary adjustment available to an employee of the same classification through any other salary schedule adopted by the district. The salary schedule under the performance pay schedule for an employee rated as effective must be equal to at least 50% or no more than 75% of the annual adjustment. If you go back to your audit report, that should be on page 9. Is that page 9? No, yeah, page 9. Finding number 7, performance salary schedule. The board was not in compliance with the state law for the years 2014-15 through 2018-19. The salary schedule I'm presenting is trying to get us in compliance with this. They have been writing us up this for several years. How many more years do we want to be written up for? This is a law. It's telling us what we need to do. And to be equitable, it falls in line. But one correction I need to make on the paper that I present to you, the 1920 administrative salary schedule, the coordinator of food service should be supervisor of food services. So what I've prepared is a salary schedule in accordance with the law. Do I have any questions?
Ms. Joseph, do you think we could do this with the new hires instead of the people that has looked where they switched? Do we still be penalized?
This goes
No,
back to
that wouldn't comply with
2014.
state statute.
Okay, we're already out of compliance. How many more years? So you want to put in a third salary schedule?
No.
Well, at some point, they're gonna stop writing up and it's gonna be some other type of fine, either monetary or Ms. Reeves, I mean, could you speak to that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think they would just keep writing us up over and over.
The Auditor General, yeah, will just keep writing you up over and over. What happens though is sooner or later, the Auditor General talks to the Department of Education. The Department of Education then comes in and requires corrective action. And then you get, there gets to be more punishments and that kind of stuff after that.
We don't need to do that. We need to be following the law.
Finding number 7 says add a performance piece to it. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, and the law says the salary adjustments for the highly effective shall be 50% than the highest, okay, it says the salary adjustment under the performance pay schedule for an employee rated as highly effective must be greater than the highest annual salary adjustment available to an employee of that classification.
Any other questions? Comments? Issue? Do we have a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve the salary schedule, administrative salary schedule.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Williamson, seconded by Ms. Gibson. There'll be a need for debate or discussion.
I don't want to debate. I want to just go according to the law because we are not in compliance. And as long as I'm on the board, I want to be in compliance in all areas.
Anybody else? Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? 3-2. Motion carried. All right. Superintendent items.
Okay, the one item I have is, I think all of y'all will be commenting on it, the football team will be going to state, and the game is scheduled for Saturday night, December 7th, at 7, it begins, kickoff is at 7 o'clock p.m. at Gene Cox Stadium. The football team's going Friday after school. They will not be taking any school, any time off. Let's support the Cowboys.
Friday they're going to FSU
They-
practice,
Okay.
and then they're leaving Saturday at, 3:15.
Are they coming, oh, they leaving Saturday at 3:15?
Yes.
So they're coming back home Friday night?
Correct.
So that was your question?
No, I don't have a.
I mean, your unspoken question. They are coming back, they're going over to Friday night to practice on FSU's field, but they're coming back home, and then they're going back Saturday.
Yeah, Jeans Cox is AstroTurf.
Right. They did play at Gene Cox back in, I think it was October timeframe. But if you've ever been on AstroTurf, the more time you can get on it, the better off and safer you'll be.
We will be journeying to Tampa to the FAS meeting to become ethical, because we all have ethics training. And so when you see us again, we'll be ethical.
Ethically trained.
That's all.
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, not unless you have questions of me.
Ms. Gibson?
I'd like to congratulate the Cowboys on their win Saturday night, and I wish them success on their path to the state championships. I'd also like to recognize our resource officer tonight and thank you for everything that you do. And I'd like to thank all of our employees, teachers, and staff, and everyone's connected with the school for what they do on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay. I do have something, and I want to apologize to Ms. Joseph that I forgot to run this by you when we talked. Out at the Central School, I know the band is struggling to get their instruments repaired. They have a lot of instruments that are not working like they should. They're kind of strapped for money, and there's a closet full of violins out there that we ended up having to purchase when one of the charter schools collapsed. And we had to pay for all those violins. Nobody uses them. They're in storage. Can we sell those things or look into the possibility of selling some of those things to raise money for the band at the Central? They're in a closet at Central School.
And we can look into the possibility, and you have to give me permission to sell them.
I want to say that it was from $5,000 to $10,000 worth of violins. During that time.
And they're brand new, never were used or anything. And they were purchased by a charter school that gave up their charter. And there was an outstanding bill and we had to pay it. And so we got them, but we don't do anything with violins and stuff. The academy does do things with violins. They don't need them.
I mean, I think it's something we should look into if that program there truly does need money for instruments.
Well, I know they've borrowed some instruments from another school, and they have some that could be repaired, but there's nobody to repair them. And it's just a shame if we're not going to, and it's a shame that those violins are the quality that they are, and somebody's not using them that could use them if they, have a program in their school that does that.
Well, I will look into, find out, can we find a source to sell them? And I'll bring it back to you.
And again, I apologize to not talking with you before a meeting.
That's fine.
All right, Ms. Bell?
I would like to say to Ms. Dixon, I appreciate everything she did for the Madison County school system. And I wish her all the blessings in the next chapter of her life. And I would like to say congratulations to the Madison County Cowboys.
I too would like to congratulate the football team and wish them all the success Saturday night in Tallahassee. Would like to congratulate the band on a great year, the cheerleaders, all the people involved in extracurricular. I want to make a clarification that was presented last week by an administrator, and it later appeared in the paper. that this board had cut the staff and allocation at Central. That is not so. Central's allocation is based on their student enrollment. And at no point did we cut, we followed the staff and allocation for that school. It was not, we didn't lower it, it was lowered due to the enrollment. I just want to make a clarification.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, and I wanted to also salute the Cowboys as well. It was a wonderful feat, 3 straight years. Going to the state title is a big time feat. And I don't think we should take it lightly. And every chance you get those, give them, salute them, congratulate them, because they also excel pretty good in the classroom as well. Because I often hear Coach Cole brag on their GPAs and everything as well. So we're so thankful for that. And it's on a Saturday, so that makes it a little more convenient for the community, more of the community to make it over there. So with that said, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I made the motion to adjourn.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion. Meeting adjourned.